Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle. I'm your honey badger, giving it to you straight in the RV business as usual. Today, I'm doing a State of the Union address. I have not done one of these in a while. It's October of 22, and it's just time to unpack everything that I see going on now and 6 months from now. So let's get started. First things first, I want to give the results of the poll I did. So I didn't put the other two answers down here because hardly anybody answered those. But 34% of you that took the poll said that your biggest concern is interest rates. Your second biggest concern is gas prices, okay? Now, I want to unpack this for you. I want to show you that making a decision this year and taking advantage of the pricing that has occurred is going to help you out and benefit you and your family while you go camping next year. Let me show you how. So let's unpack interest rates for a minute, because that seems to be the biggest concern amongst people buying RVs right now, okay? Now, I want to remind you guys that interest rates over the last 12 years, when I first got in this business, have been up and down. I've seen them as low as 2.99, and I've seen them as high as 9% before this year even occurred, okay? So I was quoting back when I first started in this business, it was like, hey man, you can't quote them anything less than 9%. Really? 9% on RV? Nobody's going to buy an RV at 9%. Well, guess what? Motorhomes, travel trailers, fifth wheels, everybody was buying because they knew one thing. They could refinance it when interest rates went down. So a smart consumer, like you folks watching this video, need to understand that there is a refinance process when interest rates go down, okay? So you need to discover a couple of things. First thing that I would look at when I'm looking at interest rates is, let's look at the term. Whoops, ran out of marker on that one. Let's look at the term, okay? So at a decent term of, let's call it 180 months, rates when this whole COVID thing went down was somewhere around 3.49 to 5.99. Now it ranged that wide because credit, down payment. Now if you wait till the end of this video, or you look in the description box below, I have several finance videos to explain why there's a fluctuation, okay? Now you're talking about 6.99 up to 9.99, depending on how much you're going to put down and depending on the term you're going to take, okay? So like banks and credit unions, the shorter the term, the lower the interest rate, okay? Also, the more down payment you put, the lower the interest rate. And then at the end, the dollar amount financed, okay? So let me go over that one more time. I'm going to cross over here, so it's going to be a shadow, okay? So there's three things that affect an interest rate. The dollar amount you finance, so how much? So you're going to get a better interest rate at $150,000 than you are at $25,000, okay? The second thing is going to be the down payment. And the third thing, if you watch my other videos, is your credit score. Or I should say your credit rating. Because I've seen people with 800 scores that don't qualify for the 699. I've seen 800 scores that qualify for 9.99. So it's all complicated. It's more like what your credit history is. Again, I've got that in other videos, okay? So at the end of the day, let's use the highest rate possible. Let's use 9.99. Okay, let's say you have outstanding credit and you're at 10% interest. Bear with me on this, guys, okay? So, at 9.99, you got to ask yourself something. How long is the rates going to be at 10%? Well, let's say worst case scenario. Let's say it's going to be a 2-year process. But let's say the payment's $400 a month. Okay, it's a 180-month term. All right, now let's say in 2 years, you could go back to your credit union and get a 5.49 rate. But it's a 120-month term. Let's say the payment stayed the same. What did you gain? You see what I mean? So you got to play the game. So smart, right now the prices are so low. And what I mean by prices, I mean the profit margin that dealers are making on 2022 inventory are way low. So if you're one of those folks who waited, I'm going to wait for prices to come down, they came down. You guys just have to realize the 1/3 of you that are scared about interest rates have to understand this is not something that's going to go away overnight. This could be a 1-year process. This could be a 2-year process. Okay. And eventually it's going to get to the point where you can refinance a coach. So there's a couple of things I want to go over right now that I think you need to unpack with yourselves and worry more about these 3 things besides interest rate. October through Thanksgiving of 2022 is going to be the best prices you're ever going to get on 2022 year models. And let me go over why that is. First of all, the 3 things that I want to cover with you real quick is stop worrying about the interest rate and start worrying about, number 1, payment. I know this is silly. 2, down payment. And these correlate to number 3, which is, can I afford it? And I don't mean, can I afford it and I only can take 1 trip a year. I'm talking about, I would unpack these 3. Okay. So where I'm at right now is, let's say, folks, I got a $350 budget a month. Okay. I've got $4,000 I can put down. And I know even with the inflation, gas prices, I can take 3 trips a year until inflation gets under control. Okay, that's a discussion that needs to happen in households that want to go camping next year. Vacations are not going to want to stop. You're not going to want to sit at home and do nothing. We couldn't do nothing during COVID, right? So everybody went into this frenzy of buying trailers and motorhomes and fifth wheels and so forth, okay? This is the best pricing you're going to get in the next month and a half than you will during next year. So even waiting till next year, okay, and I'll go over that, even waiting next year, you still have high interest rates and you're going to have higher prices because profit margins. So at some point right now, you're seeing through Thanksgiving, you're seeing companies take almost 0 margin, which means they're depending on making money at the bank, making money on extended warranty, making money on other ways like accessories, parts, and service. That's what dealers are doing right now. They are kicking back and going, man, we got to shrink down our inventory. I've got one dealer that I have just signed up that they have went through and said, man, we're going to knock this inventory down. We're going to get it down to 60, 70 pieces. So I'm at 114. How do I get it down there before December? Well, the easiest way to do that is have a big sale, have a big show. The Portland RV show in November is going to be humongous because you're going to get the best prices of the year. You're going to get the best rates before the rates go up, okay? You just have to have this discussion. Now, let's just say, for example, here's going to be a quick example. Sorry for peeking my head in there. Let's say that you find out that, nope, I can't afford it. I can only take maybe 1 trip during the year. Okay, don't do it. Hold off. You're not ready, okay? But next year, if you could take 3 trips that you can afford without breaking the bank, this is beautiful. Because at the end of the day, guys, you want equity. right? So let's break out another marker. You want equity. The easiest way to get equity when you're figuring all this out, okay, is how do I refinance? So if you refinance, whoops, once again, I burned out a marker. Look at it. So refinance, let's say you do it in 2 years and you shrink the term. This is the secret. We don't do it on our homes. We don't do it on our cars generally. But on an RV, what you do is you go to your credit union. Hey man, I can still afford $350. Hey, I don't need any down payment. And now I'm going to shrink my term from 15 years to, let's call it 10. Now I save myself a bunch of money. I got a lower rate, a great price, and I'm still at the same payment. All right, let's touch on gas prices, okay? Because the other round third of you are worried that you're not going to be able to use the coach because of gas prices, okay? So let me just show you a little something that's very interesting, okay? Back in 2011, gas prices on average were right around $3.50 a gallon across the nation. Everybody forgets that during the Obama administration and the Bush administration, right at the end during the recession, gas prices were humongous, and yet RVs were still selling. People were still going out and getting RVs and going camping. Why? Well, let's just look at a few random things, okay? First of all, let's take this out. And let's just do a price differential, all right? So the average consumer uses their travel trailer, fifth wheel, motorhome for about 2,000 miles a year. That's the average. Some will do a little more, like my family will do a lot less, but 2,000 miles is the average, okay? Now, this is the math that you need to sit down and do with yourself, okay? So, 2,000 miles, average coach gets about, let's just call it 10 miles to a gallon, okay? So, divide that by 10, what do you come up with? 200 gallons, right? So 200 gallons of fuel. So let's just say, for example, okay, that let's say this is built into 4 trips. Okay, so at 200 gallons, let's say the price differential between what you're paying in 2020 to what you're paying now is let's call it $2 a gallon more, okay? So at $2 a gallon more than what you're paying, let's call it 2 years ago, you're at $400. So you're paying an extra $400 a year in gasoline, diesel fuel, whatever the case may be, compared to 2020 or 2021, however you want to do that math, over 4 trips. So 4 trips, let's divide that again by 4 trips. That's $100 a trip. So you are spending $100 more in gasoline to take your trip to your campsite. Like, for example, me, I go to Bishop, June Lake in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains, go to Cachuma Lake, whatever the case may be. If you travel 2,000 miles a year on 4 trips, you spend $100 more per trip in gas. Okay? That's if you're spending $2 more a gallon than what you were back 2 years ago.